Welcome back to Elevation 44. I'm Beverly, or B for those of you who are new here. Welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And if you are listening on the podcast, special shout out to you, podcast listeners. So today we are diving into this Libra full moon eclipse because it is an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, and this is marking the start of eclipse season. And just a lot of different energies that are going to be ushered in the month of April. So this is an interesting one. Um, Forgive me, I am in my workout gear, just came from the gym, and I was like, am I going to take time to get ready for this video, or should I just go on ahead and press record on this camera and get this message out? And I chose the latter because if I would have waited, I think the messaging would have gotten lost or my motivation to do it would have just dwindled. I definitely struggled with getting this message out this week. And every day I just felt like, I was like, okay, this is going to be the day that I'm going to be able to record, get this out and put it up and post it, because I like to have it, up a little bit earlier for you all to, get prepared and listen to. But I was just getting a lot of resistance around it this week. And so I just had to listen. I just had to take a seat, take a step back and just flow with the energy. And sometimes that's necessary. And in that process, I realized that I was being asked to do that so that I wouldn't project any of my own experiences or thoughts or beliefs upon the message, right? I want the message to be the message without being influenced or being biased in terms of like my feelings around it. So I'm glad that I took the time to sit back and just kind of work through some things in that regard. And I'm here now and I'm ready to get this message out. And I feel very clear to just channel what needs to be, you know, communicated to you all. All right. So we are going to start off with my computer is up and my notes are up. So if you see me looking off to the side, that's exactly what I'm doing. So this full moon is going to be happening on March 25th, okay? It's going to be happening on a Monday, moon day. So extra special lunar vibes around that, all right? So the energy of a lunar eclipse is just a full moon on steroids. It is just, a magnified full moon energy. It is also, like I said, on a Monday, on a lunar day. So that will intensify the energy even more. And this is definitely one of those eclipses you're probably already feeling in terms of the energy, especially when we start getting into the themes of what this, full moon will be highlighting. But it is a culmination, it is a peak point of something. And the something is what started 6 months ago, and that's October. And that is the lunar eclipse, I'm sorry, the solar eclipse rather, that we had in the sign of Libra 6 months ago in October. So there was a lot that kind of unfolded around that, specifically around our relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, I'm talking about relationships of all kinds. Like relationships, a lot of them transformed, you know, um, ended, or just went through some really tumultuous stuff to kind of show you where the imbalances were, what isn't working, and it just put a lot of pressure and tension in certain ways. And like I said, some of them just got swept out altogether at that time. But our relationships, our emotional balance, there could have been events, things that have happened that showed you where you needed to gain stronger emotional boundaries and balance within yourself. And, a lot of us have been tested in a lot of different ways. So just think back to October of last year and see how that end of the year kind of, some of the events and the things that unfolded after that solar eclipse happened, and just kind of how it's continuing to unfold now, and seeing if some of the themes or the things that were kicked off then are now, like I said, reaching peak or being shown to you in certain ways now, because this is, like I said, the continuation of that. This is the culmination, the peak of that. So if things didn't resolve or balance themselves out between the kickoff of that solar eclipse in October and now, you'll definitely seeing a more of the balancing out happening now to really, really put you or align you where you need to be. This Libra full moon is going to be happening at 5 degrees. And 5 in numerology, we know, is really synonymous with change. It's also freedom, right? It really is about freeing yourself. And so to me, that is kind of like the theme, the overall arching theme coming out of this full moon is free yourself. Free yourself. And you might have to free yourself from you, right? So some of the major themes coming out are, again, those emotional boundaries are balancing. And we've been talking about emotional boundaries throughout Pisces season, especially with Saturn being in Pisces right now. So emotional balancing, relationship changes, and just releasing and letting go, because lunar eclipses, specifically this one, is tied to the South Node, and that is all about the past. That is all about seeing the past patterns, the karmic cycles, the habitual things, and really just deciding to release. And it's more of an internal process, because solar eclipses are more about our external and kind of like the things that we produce. And the lunar eclipses bring us more inwards. The moon represents our emotions, our internal world. So that is a lot of the processing and transformation that's going on. It's more on an internal level than an external level. But then, later we do see the external evidence of those internal changes. So we start with that. A lot of that, it's a little bit more gentle in regards to the solar eclipses, because like I said, it's more of an internal process happening that is just, working itself out and working itself through. But you're definitely going to feel it. You are definitely going to feel it in some way, shape, or form. And I will also say, looking back at where that solar eclipse was happening for you, what house was it happening in for you? Yes, the overall theme is relationships and emotional balance, but that house will also give you further insight and show you some themes and the things that are definitely impacting you, as well as this lunar eclipse. Looking at the house that it's happening in for you will give you that level of insight, because if you're having it, for example, in your third house, your house of communication, you can see how those communication patterns or those different things, those blockages, those imbalances have played out in your relationships. And we all have relationships, romantic ones, familial ones, friend ones, relationships with our kids, relationships with people that we work with. We are in a relation, okay? This is what this whole thing is while we're here. We're in relation with each other. So don't discount this message if you feel like, oh, I'm not in a romantic relationship, so this doesn't apply. That's not true. Another thing that is coming out of this full moon is the thing that we sometimes do when we've been hurt, when we've been in a place of like, you know what, I don't want to put myself out there anymore in terms of, getting close to somebody, getting into a relationship, romantic or a partnership or something like that, because of this past pain and this past hurt that I've experienced, or these circumstances that have unfolded in my life. And we get to a space where we start telling ourselves that we really don't want a relationship. We really don't want this. And it's not true. Like deep down inside, we desire to be connected with another person in certain types of ways. And so this also is asking you to really be honest with yourself. What are you allowing narrative wise to, and ego wise, to run the show in terms of keeping you from living your best life, keeping you from having the things that you truly deep down desire on a soul level? And yes, while you have a group that is looking at their codependent habits and like they're saying, hey, I need to kind of create more separation in terms of pulling my energy back into myself so I can empower me, right? Because when I'm in a place of empowerment, everything else just flows. And the way that I interact with other people flow. But you also have the other side, the other group who is just in this like, no, I'm shut off, I'm walled off, I don't want this, because all life has taught me is that relationships or getting close to people equals pain. And so, which side of the spectrum are you on? It still signals imbalance in some way. So, just being honest with yourself through this process is going to be really important for you in terms of using this energy to your best advantage. Now, the real story that's playing out during the time of this full moon is Venus, and Venus rules Libra, and rules Libra's energy. So, looking at where Venus is sitting in your chart specifically, transiting Venus, because right now, Venus, I'm looking at the chart, Venus is in Pisces, and Venus in Pisces is really, it's compassionate, it's the dreamer, it's like the hopeless romantic. It is the person who will cut off their arm to make sure that you have the arm, so that you're not suffering, you're not in pain. This is Venus tendencies in Pisces, and to a detriment almost, right? It's like giving too much of yourself, not knowing when to have boundaries, not knowing when to pull out. So a part of it is very beautiful and selfless, and then a part of it is just very destructive, because it's almost finding fulfillment in rescuing or coming to the aid of another or pouring into another. So balance is required. But we'll get into the Venus transit, or transits. So Venus is transiting, like I said, through Pisces, but it's making some aspects, and we'll talk about that. But the first thing I want to talk about is the direct aspects that the moon is going to be making with the other planets at the time of this eclipse, okay? So we have the moon, we will have that moon trining Pluto. Yep. So that is like the biggest thing that the moon specifically is doing at the time of this eclipse. And moon trine Pluto is just telling you it's time to release control. Let go. Just let go. It's about a clearing out. Things are clearing out for a reason, whether that actually be a physical clearing out, it could be an emotional clearing out, it could be a mental clearing out. Sometimes your thought patterns have to change, right? Your beliefs first have to change before your thoughts can change. And your thoughts changing then change your actions, and the actions produce different results. So it really is about that. The reason why we get so affixed and we hold on so tight is because we're trying to maintain that sense of control. It's like, I know what I want, this is comfortable, this feels good, or maybe it doesn't, but you find comfort in it because that's all you know. And you're not flowing. You're not flowing with life, and that always comes back to a sense of resistance and difficulty, and causing unnecessary suffering and pain for yourself and others because you're so busy trying to control it. Just let go. Just let go. So moon trine Pluto is really about that. Also, it's about, so this is about the clearing out, the letting go, and it's also about finding your personal power, your inner personal power again, because Pluto represents your inner power. It represents power in general, but with that combination with the moon, it really is pointing to your inner power, your inner energy. Like, take that back. Just like I said earlier, take it back. Call your energy back to you. It doesn't mean that you don't put any energy into anything else or you don't care in that way, but you really need to shift so that you can balance things out. So pulling it back into yourself is going to be important. And for those people who are on the other side of the scale who don't want to let their energy out at all because they're afraid, you need to do the opposite. You almost need to then, open up yourself, open up your heart to allow your energy to be shared in a different manner, okay? So your intuition is going to be sharp, specifically around relationship dynamics with this, aspect between the moon and Pluto. The reason is because Pluto also gets into the depths of things. It gets into your subconscious mind, and it can really, it's like I want to say, like, Pluto is a great psychologist. Like, it knows how to study patterns in humans and people, and it can get into the psyche on a deep level to find out what is motivating the surface actions or words or different things that is playing out. So getting into the depths of things and also using your intuition, because the moon is very intuitive, combining that together, you will get some more insight into why you're operating the way you do, why your dynamics are the way they are, and why the other person is in that realm that you're relating to as well. So yeah, it's going to be a really illuminating time, as it should be. So the moon is also going to be aspecting Neptune kind of more in a wider orbit, but it's going to be opposite Neptune. And with the moon being opposite Neptune, our intuition is still pretty heightened. There is a lot that are coming in message-wise, specifically in a dream form, in terms of our other, spiritual abilities or psychic abilities, I would say, because Neptune is really all about that, heightening those or highlighting those spiritual or psychic abilities. And dreams is a one way that a lot of us have been getting messages. And I know myself included, and talking to others, dreams have really been heightened over the course of Pisces season. And I know now we're in Aries season, but it's still there. The lingering effects of it is still there. So if you're getting answers or different messages or different things coming in from your dreams, pay attention to that as well. So I did say earlier that Venus was the star of the show, right? And Venus is currently, like I said, sitting in the sign of Pisces, but it's making a couple of different aspects with the other planets that I think is important to pay attention to, because I think this is really what's influencing this eclipse the most, right? So the first is that we have Venus will be sextile Jupiter, and this is an exact, right? This is at 0 degrees, so that this is a really, really strong influence that's coming in here. The support of this Venus and Jupiter sextile is really about deepening either your existing relationships or making room to attract supportive relationships that really support who you are and who you're becoming, right? This is also a good time to just develop your own inner work. Relationships are meant to teach us, relationships of all kinds, things about ourselves. What we see in others, like I said, it's a reflection of the good qualities within you and also the other qualities within you that need developing and need work. Also getting involved in things that we're passionate about. I was listening to this podcast recently, and this particular episode of the podcast was talking about our passions being a form of self-care. When we feed our passions, we take care of ourselves. When we pour into our passions, that is a form of taking care of ourselves, because we put ourselves in the best alignment, right? We feel good about ourselves. This is increasing our energetic vibration, which then spills into other areas of our lives. It attracts opportunities, it attracts abundance, it attracts good relationships, it attracts self-worth, like it builds up our confidence, it builds up our self-worth. There's a lot of things that it does for us on a positive level. So getting involved into your passions and really focusing on that instead of focusing on some of the other things that we've allowed to take our attention away is also going to be really, really important for you in terms of finding inner balance with yourself. The next aspect Venus is going to be making at the time of this full moon eclipse is its conjunction with Saturn. Now, when Venus and Saturn conjunct, it takes on a more serious tone or nature, right? And Saturn is currently in Pisces. Saturn is our responsibility, our restrictions, our accomplishment, our authority. And it's a little bit more of that rougher, harder energy, like get to work. If you want the good things, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to buckle down. You're going to have to be responsible and all of that. So Saturn can feel a little bit more restricting, limiting. Now, with it in Pisces, it softens up. Pisces kind of softens Saturn's and energy, and it really is more about looking at our boundaries and the work that we're going to be putting in, but it's more from an internal level. It's looking at our emotional boundaries. It's looking at our internal work, our internal accomplishments and things like that. So it really pulls the focus more inward. And it's a great period with Saturn and Venus conjuncting for self-reflection into our habits and our thoughts and our patterns and some lessons that we've been repeating, and also just also looking at our own inner things like our insecurity, our our strengths and our weaknesses, our underlying feelings about certain things that we haven't been honest with ourselves about, or we have not been in a space to process. Also, struggling with those feelings of loneliness. It can make you feel even more lonely and make you want to push things away from you, right? Because you get into this space of wanting to isolate and feel like you need to keep everyone out because it's too much to get into a space of vulnerability where you're feeling exposed, right? It's all of those deeper things. So this is a great transit to really get into that self-reflection piece and really dive deep within yourself. It is easy to get into a space where, like I said, you're being cold and mean and pushing people away because of the things that you're processing, or your fears or your insecurities and different things are coming up. But I advise you not to lean in that direction and to lean in more of the direction of the journaling, the meditating, the doing the deep inner work. So many people want to have the good life, right? And when I say the good life, they want the good relationships, they want the abundant lifestyle, they want to be able to travel and live good and be healthy, but not want to do the work to get those things. These things require work. It requires inner work and outer work. It's not just about physically working hard. You want to have a successful marriage or relationship or friendship or whatever, but you don't want to do the inner work or reconcile the things within that need to be dealt with in order to have those things. Like, come on, you're not going to get those things without doing the inner work. You want the things, put in the work for it. Put in the work for it. Put in the inner work. And yes, it can be uncomfortable. At times it can be hard and it can suck because it's emotional and it's dredging up wounds and opening up things to be exposed, but we have to do it if we really want those things, or unless we just like to repeat these cycles over and over and over again, and we want to tell ourselves that narrative or trick ourselves into the story of like, yeah, I'm happy living like this. I'm happy not being truly inner fulfilled. I'm just going to be, keeping myself busy on the surface, and, I'm going to ignore the rest of my desires. And yeah, that works for me. I'm happy. And if you like it, I love it. Give yourself what you deserve, what you desire. But if you need to do that inner work to get it, then do what you got to do. And the last thing that Venus will be aspecting is Uranus, and they're also going to be in sextile. And this sextile means that there is like some newly emergent desires that are coming up. Like you are realizing like, hey, this thing, relationship, whatever's been going on over here is not meeting my needs or not even aligned with what I truly want, what my soul truly desires. So I'm now becoming more aware of what my emerging needs are. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Because then we can really come into a place of getting everything on the same page, aligning ourselves and making the moves and the decisions that are supportive of that. So with this full moon eclipse, my recommendation, ritual-wise, is self-reflection. Going within, really, really sitting with yourself, journal, meditate, whatever you have to do to get into that internal space, and really doing a review, seeing what the past 6 months has taught you about yourself, about others, and getting into a space of awareness. Self-awareness is key. and then going into that next phase of self-healing once you're aware of the things that need to be fixed. All right, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but that's really as simple as it is. Bringing that balance is only going to come in that way. All right, so I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you have a wonderful Libra full moon eclipse. Like I said, this is the start of eclipse season. We will be going into a Aries new moon solar eclipse, and that's going to be a total solar eclipse, and that's going to pack a punch. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we also have the Jupiter and Uranus conjunction coming up in April. There's just a lot of different energies playing out, and it's gonna get spicy. But if you are not subscribed, go on ahead and subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to the podcast as well if you're listening there, because we'll talk all about these things coming down the pipeline. I don't want you to miss anything. Look forward to just continuing on with you guys, healing on this journey and elevating together. So I hope you have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.